All right, so this should be review for everybody, but proportions, we just need to know what a proportion is. A proportion is just equivalent ratios. So I've got a ratio on the left, and I'm just going to pull up a new screen real quick. I've got a ratio on the left, and it doesn't matter what it is. I'll just say it's A over B. All right, so a proportion would just be, here's an equivalent ratio. It might not be exactly the same numbers, but that can be equivalent to C over D. So some really obvious ones are something like 1/2 is going to be equivalent to 2 over 4. And let's say that's just a proportion saying these are proportional to each other. All right, so we could have another one. Let's say it's 1 over 4 equals x over 12. And this is one you could probably figure out in your head just by looking and doing a little bit of scaling. What do you think x is going to be in this case? X is going to be 3. And, of course, a lot of times it's not one that you can just really quickly look at and figure out. And a lot of you would be able to just look at this and say, oh, x is going to be 3 in this case. Because it's 1/4, and what's 1/4 of 12? Well, 3 is 1/4 of 12. All right, so what's the method we use to solve these whenever they get more challenging? Anyone remember? All right, so, and I'm just going to, well, I don't have to make one up. I'll go back to the worksheet now. There's a lot of these here. Because I bet a lot of you, if I look at number 5 on this handout, I don't think too many people in here would be able to really quickly tell me the answer for what m is going to be for that problem. I know it's a little bit small on the screen, so I'll just make it a little bigger. So that's going to be m over 5 equals 7 over 2. Now, if you looked at it long enough, you could probably figure it out just in your head, but a lot of you could. But we have a method for solving this. And what we do is cross products. And so the cross product is essentially this. You multiply the diagonals together and set them equal. So if I do this, it's going to be 2 times m equals 7 times 5 is 35. And actually, I'll write it out. First of all, I'll say 7 times 5, and therefore 2 times m equals 35. So does that make sense how I set that up? Okay. Does that ring a bell?
A little bit.
Okay. I know this is not the first time you've seen proportions, but at the same time, it can be a little bit tough. So I just want to show you where that cross product comes from, because if I just say, oh, just do this, then you need to understand why that works. It's really just a shortcut. You're only eliminating one step from the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'll rewrite this real quick. So m over 5 equals 7. 7 over 2. Okay, so if you are looking at ratios like this, our basic goal is to get rid of denominators. We don't like to have denominators there, so the way I get rid of them is by multiplying by whatever's in the denominator. So if I'm going to get rid of the 5 over on the left side, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. All right, so the 5s cancel out on the left, and I'm left with m equals, well, 7, I can multiply the 7 and the 5 together because they're in the denominator, so that's going to be 35 over 2. I still don't like having that 2 right there. Now, honestly, this would be the end of my problem, but let's just say I don't want to have a denominator, so I can multiply both sides here by 2. And when these cancel out, I'm left with 2 times m equals 35. Of course, in this particular problem, that was not necessary because we already had m equals all by itself. But generally speaking, what we're doing is we're just doing 2 steps where we multiply by one of the denominators, and then we multiply by the other denominator. And what cross products does is it just says, why don't we multiply by both denominators at the same time? And that will cancel out one on one side, and then just multiply it by the numerator on the other side. All right. So from here, 2 times m, I can divide both sides by 2. And I get m equals, we can actually get a decimal answer or we can leave it as a fraction. Remember the PDFs when you download them, they have the answer key at the back if you go back there. You'll see a lot of them are in fraction format, but generally speaking, I think you're going to want to put it in decimal. So you can always check your answers just by dividing those fractions and seeing what decimals you get. But anyways, 35 divided by 2, what is that? Thank you. 17.5. All right, so I wanted to go through one more, and if you guys have questions, we can go through another one after that. But then give you guys the day. So your goal for the day is to walk out of the class feeling like you know how to solve proportions. And that's important because tomorrow we're going to be using proportions, and the more difficult part is setting them up. But once you have them, everyone should feel comfortable with how to solve for the missing values. So any questions on this one right here that we did? Then let's go to the hard ones. Probably the very end of this page. The last 4 of these are going to be ones that are more challenging, but I hope you'll see they're really not that bad. They just look intimidating. Don't let them intimidate you. They're really not too bad. So which one of these do you want to do first? And if we want to do another one after this, we can. But which one do you want to see? Well, we're looking at the last 4 of the page. And if you, remember, if you're already in markup, you have to get out of markup, scroll to the next page, and then get back into markup. Okay, what did I hear? 23? Let's do 23. All right, so my basic strategy right here is going to be cross products. And hopefully this is big enough up on the screen you can see what I'm doing. I actually draw the circles around the diagonals so that it's very obvious what I'm multiplying. So it'll be very clear in a second. It's going to be 8 times, well, 8 is multiplying by this denominator on the right side, which is going to be 7v plus 4. And then the other product I get is 3 times v minus 9. All right, so is everyone good with how I got this? You take your 2 products and set them equal to each other. And once you've got this, then it's just basic algebra. And I'm not saying it's easy every time, but if you just follow the steps of algebra, you'll be able to get the job done. What do we need to do first? Distribute. So I need to distribute on both sides for a problem like this. So on the left side, what do I end up with? 56v plus 32. And then on the right side, I'll have, there you go, 3v minus 27. And we're always just trying to get the answer for the variable on its own. So we need to get the variable to one side. We need to get the numbers to the other side. So tell me what to do. Subtract 32. Let's do that. And it does not matter if we move the numbers to the left, move the numbers to the right, but we do need to separate the numbers in the variables. All right, so I have 56v left over equals 3v minus what? 59. All right. And I don't want to go too fast. Is everyone good with this? That is a 9 right there. Okay, so next step, what do we do?
We subtract 32.
Well, we already did subtracting 32, so...
I mean 56.
Well, we want to move the variables to the other side, so we're subtract the 3v. So those will cancel. And I'm left with this really weird 53v equals negative 59. This is not going to be a nice even number. All right, so the last thing we do is divide by 53. Now, if you look at the answer key, what you're going to see is that V equals negative 59 over 53. But you can actually do that division, and what is that number going to be? 1.01? Okay. And yeah, so we'll leave it as a decimal, to round it to the tenths. So that's negative 1.1, was that right? Okay. So there it is. That's the value whenever you actually do the division. And a lot of times that's what you're going to be doing, because this negative 1.1 is a little easier for us to understand than negative 59/53. All right. So regardless, you will need to kind of double check, seeing that the answer key is given in a ratio form, in a fraction. All right. Do you guys want to do another one of these, or do you guys see what you're doing?
Let's try 22.
Okay, I heard 22 or 24. We'll just do one of those two, and then if you want to see the other, also I can come around and do that individually. So 22 then. All right. So with 22, same process. We're always taking the diagonals of this and multiplying them. If you get the hang of it, you can just start practicing and double checking your answers. All right. So I'm identifying which terms are being multiplied together, which expressions. All right. So now I've got 6 and b plus 5 are going to be multiplied by each other. 4 and b plus 9 are going to be multiplied together, and those products are going to be set equal. So 6 times b plus 5 is going to equal 4 times b plus 9. And it can be a little confusing because my 6's and b's kind of look alike, so hopefully you can keep that straight. All right. And again, what do we do with this first?
Minus 5.
Well, before we can do any moving numbers left and right, yeah.
Oh, we got to times it.
Yeah, you got to distribute these numbers first.
6b.
There it is. 6b plus what? Plus 30 equals 4b plus
36.
36. Okay, now we can start moving numbers left and right. So what do you want to move?
Why don't we move 30 first?
Okay, so how do we move that 30?
Minus 30.
All right, subtract that 30 from both sides. So I got 6b equals 4b plus 6. Subtract the 4b now. I got 2b equals 6. And lastly, we do what?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. This one works out nice. What is our answer?
3.
B equals 3. And we can always go back and double check. So what I'm going to do to make sure this is right, was everyone good on the process for getting our answer? So if we ever want to check, we're not sure if we did it right, just plug that B value back in. So rather than the original proportion, I'm going to have 6 over 3 plus 9 equals 4 over 3 plus 5. And then if I evaluate that, it's going to be 6 over 12 equals 4 over 8. Do you guys agree to 6 over 12 equal 4 over 8? No. And we can figure that out by either doing the division and seeing that it's 0.5 in both cases, or we could simplify the fractions and see that they're both 1/2. All right. Is this making sense for you guys? Okay. So again, today, just make sure the time you have that you're getting to the point where you feel like you know what you're doing. And you are sticking around today for ACT practice after this.